So welcome everyone to the very first 10-minute podcast audit on Marketing Bound. We partner up with podcasters and chat to see how we can help their show in 10 minutes. So my name is Bernhard. I am a podcast coach helping people launch and build their podcasts. And today we're going to go take a deep dive into the Find Your Side Hustle podcast by Phil Hughes. I'll link everything below so that you can access it. But Phil, hello, welcome.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. Are you excited?
I am. I'm very excited, yeah.
Okay, so before we start, can you tell us about your podcast in 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, so my podcast is the Find Your Side Hustle podcast. And basically, it's me talking about the experiences I've had trying to find and build various side hustles based around software, which is my background. And on top of that, I get friends and people I network with who have been able to either successfully start their own side hustle or successfully run a business to come on and give their tips and learnings and 3 negatives and 3 positives that they've learned over the years. So that's the goal of the podcast, to help other people avoid the mistakes and focus on what may work for them as well.
Okay, very, very cool. So I spent a couple hours listening to your podcast. I went through your websites, all of that good stuff. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start a 10-minute timer.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go through some points. And then when the time rings, we're going to stop and we're just going to take it all in. Okay?
Cool.
Okay. This might work. This might not. We'll try. Okay. So the first things I want to mention is that you're doing a really, really good job with your podcast, because I see that you're consistently posting every single week, which is super key.
Yep.
And I like that you have a combination of solo episodes and guests, because in the solo episodes you can present yourself as an expert, and then the guest, it helps your network, but it also keeps things interesting for your listeners. So I like that you have both.
Cool. Yep.
I like that you have your podcast on your website. Some people don't have that. So that's really good accessibility, especially if you're driving traffic to that website. And I really like how you name your episodes. So it's super clear as to what you're going to talk about, who you're going to talk with, and the value is clear. Mm-hmm. Okay. So all those things are great, but I want to dive in deeper. Don't take anything personally.
No
just
problem.
want to help you. We are going to talk about your goals, but we're going to talk about them a little bit later. 2 things that I think you can improve on immediately is your intro music. It's too loud. Okay, so I really want to hear what you're saying at the beginning, and I really had to tell my boyfriend to be quiet. I was like, I'm trying to listen to Phil, okay?
Any excuse to tell your boyfriend that to be quiet as well.
You know what? I didn't want to say that, but yes. But I really wanted to hear what you were saying, because it was like the first introduction to your show, and I didn't know what to expect, and I couldn't hear what you were saying. I was having a hard time. So just when you're adding the music, it's good that you have the music, but it's just a little bit too loud.
Okay, cool.
Also, I like that you have the sponsor in each episode, which is your product, which is super, super good. But don't forget to link that in your show notes.
Okay, cool. Of course. It's obvious now.
It's fine. Sometimes you need an outside perspective. So you were talking about your product, Outflash,
yeah.
Flash, right?
Yep.
So I was like, oh, super cool. I'm going to go check it out. And then when I went to the show notes, it wasn't there.
That's a great point. Brilliant.
So I did find it on your website because I was spending extra energy looking into your podcast, but other people are not going to spend the time.
Cool.
Okay. And also the website is like XYZ something. So instead you can say, check out my product. It's in the show notes. So not only is it easy for them to access, you're not confusing them, and you're getting people to your show notes.
Yep.
Right?
Excellent.
So Okay, let's take a deeper dive into your goals. So your first goal is to get 100,000 downloads, which
Yes.
is like everybody has that goal, right?
Yep, of course.
So I like this goal
Mm-hmm.
because you're looking at downloads as a whole and not per episode, right? So
That's correct. Yeah.
you can have one episode that does really, really bad. And then you're like, oh my God, I didn't reach, 500 or 1,000 listens on that episode. But technically, if you're looking at it as a whole, first of all, less stress about the vanity metrics. And also, that's what sponsors want to know. They don't necessarily want to know what you get in the first week. They just like, over time, how many episodes do you get?
Mm-hmm.
So, the thing about 100,000 listens is that you just said, I want to get 100,000 listens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you do podcasting for the next 50 years, you can get to 100,000 listens, right?
Interesting. Yep.
So you have to identify when you want to do it by.
Yep, cool.
Right? So first question for you, right now, how are you getting your listeners? Do you have like an email list? Are you promoting it somewhere? Do you know where they're coming from?
I'm not entirely sure where they're coming from. I think that's one of the difficulties I'm finding with podcasting is actually working out how people find the podcast. I'm quite active on social media, so I try and publish to many directories as I can, and I email my list every time a show goes live, and I try and reach out on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter to say, oh, new show's live, and trying to get my audience that I've got, the small audience I've got on social media, try and get them interacted with it and to share it as well.
Okay, I like that idea that you're trying different things, but just also make sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin. And I did the exact same mistake where at first I'm like, oh, I can be promoting every day for the rest of my life and still need things to promote, So it's really easy to get overwhelmed with promoting the episode. So at one point, definitely take a step back and identify which one is working the best and put more energy there, but also give your time to try a different channel, right? So I know you're on Instagram, for example.
Yep.
Maybe spend more time building that audience instead of maybe Twitter, right?
Cool.
Just because it just sounded like a lot from what you were saying. Who is your target audience?
So my target audience, I'm trying to target specifically myself, really. So software developers and maybe technical guys who are quite frustrated with a 9-to-5 or whatever and want to try and transition out, but haven't kind of got the starting point really, or feel that they can't do that. But I've been chatting to a lot of people as well who anyone just wants to try and start a side hustle. But yeah, mainly it's technical guys. I've chatted with a gentleman who's based in Germany actually, and he's been inspired by the episode to start his own side hustles, and he's a software developer as well. So yeah, it's kind of like people like myself.
Okay, I really like that. I'm just going to check your description quick. Wait, how much time do we have left? Okay, we still have 3 minutes. I think you should make that more clear in your, I'm not sure if you say it in your intro because I couldn't really hear it, but in your description and your intro, because it really calls out the people that you're targeting. And I'm assuming those are the people that you want to sell your product to?
No, not necessarily. No, not necessarily.
So I know one of your goals.
That may be a conflict. Yeah, interesting.
Right? So I know one of your goals is to get people to buy your products. So if you're not targeting those people, then there is kind of a misalignment.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's definitely something that you have to look into more, especially if that's one of your goals.
Yep. Great show.
Yeah. Because who is the user of your product? Who is the ideal user of your products? I know you have many, but I know you can't really promote all of them in one show because they're not all the same. I looked through them.
Yeah.
So is there a chance where you can kind of realign your podcast so that it's targeting one of the users to one of the products?
Potentially, yeah. So I think one of the products, Elementary Analytics, can help business owners make sense of their sort of website analytics and all the social media insights that go around that. So maybe if I kind of, with the business people I've got on the podcast, maybe target it more towards people starting a business and going down that route. And then that ties in. Oh, so you're starting your own business. Why not try our tool that'll help you make sense of everything? So I could start repositioning to promote that product a bit more. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I think you said it really, really well there. You're targeting the people that you're interviewing, but then also the listeners with that paid sponsorship at the beginning. Sorry, I'm just used to saying that. So
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, because I thought that was going to be a bigger hurdle, but that's actually a very quick solution, which is super cool. And then one quick thing before we finish, I want to get this in your description. You start, so I've spent over a decade working on side hustles and projects.
Yep.
I would rephrase your description to tell the reader, the listener, the value of your show.
Okay.
Okay. So right now you're telling me about your story, and then you tell me a little bit about the value. I would reverse it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God, that's gonna scare me every time, isn't it? I didn't think that through. Okay. Okay, well, is there something I can tell you quick?
It's your show, so you can overrun if you want. That's fine.
So I think just to summarize everything, it's that you really want to align who you're targeting with what you're trying to sell. And then making sure that within everything you write, so in the show notes, in the description, in your intro, that you're telling, in your episode titles, that you're telling the listeners the value and why they should click on your show. So that's what I can do in 10 minutes. I hope that was helpful.
This is brilliant. Yeah, it's really, really helpful. Yeah, really great, really great. Instead of, gives me a bit of focus for the podcast, and instead of just recording an episode for the sake of being consistent,
Yeah,
I can now start honing in the podcast as the goal, like you said, to promote the product. So yeah, that's massive help. Yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that we can have this meeting. Everybody who's listening, if you have a podcast you want me to audit, please check out the link below, and we'll catch you for the next audit.